Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day in West Michigan, isn't it, today? Oh, well, maybe not so much, but hopefully the sun will come out one last time, and then we'll see it again about next April after winter hits. So I'm Bill Smith, president of the Seidman Alumni Association, the people that put this together with the Peter Secchia series, and we are very pleased today to have you all here. We have a full house. Those of you that are in the back, there are a few seats up here in front if you'd like to move your way up and find a closer seat. We don't charge any more for those seats, so come on down. Today it is my great pleasure to introduce not only a friend and a colleague, no, it's not Doug, Frank Blossom, who actually we took the locks off the door and allowed him to come visit us today. He teaches over at the School of Communications in Advertising and PR. And I teach to my students that it's all about networking. How do you get the really great people on your team? And you do that by networking. And I would like to say that we had all the connects to Doug, but we didn't. Frank knows Doug, and Frank was the one that was able to bring Doug in. So I've asked Frank to introduce Doug for us today. Frank, why don't you join me and tell us a little bit about Doug?
Good morning. Thank you, Bill. As Bill mentioned, I teach advertising, and I love teaching advertising, but I don't teach here at Seidman. I teach in the Advertising and Public Relations major, which is part of the School of Communications out in Allendale. And we're a big major. We have 600 advertising and public relations students. And so this morning, we're pleased to partner with the Seidman College of Business and the Joan and Peter Secchia Breakfast Series to bring Doug Conant to Grand Valley. Last night, Doug met with a few of our advertising and public relations students and faculty and alumni in a fireside chat in one of the few rooms here at Grand Valley that actually has a fireplace over in the University Club. And it was a great experience. And Doug, I've known for a number of years. I've always been impressed with him. And he has a tremendous resume of leadership positions and accomplishments, honors, and successes. And it's way too long for me to go into today because you're here to hear Doug, not hear me talk about Doug. So we printed out a highlight reel or highlight sheet on your tables with some of the many accomplishments that Doug has achieved. But I think that Doug may be most noted as the man who put the chicken back in America's favorite chicken noodle soup. And along the way helped turn Campbell's from really a second-tier company in trouble at the bottom of the Fortune 500 list into one of the most admired, respected, and successful food companies in the world. And Doug's done it with a leadership style that he's going to talk about today. And it's a leadership style based on honoring not himself, but honoring those that he works with and celebrating their successes. So it's my honor today to introduce a friend, sometimes a tennis partner, and always an inspiration, Doug Conant.
Good morning. Some of you got that. Some of you, those of you who are awake. I see a few of the students that were in our group last night. Where are you? I saw a few of you that I recognized. You don't want to identify yourselves. Understand that. I was telling Frank that Grand Valley State gets the award for the best Twitter engagement after a talk that I've ever given on a per-person basis. Boy, they were tweeting like crazy after our session. And it was fun to see what they were taking away from the conversation. And it was encouraging because I think they actually took away what I had hoped they would take away. And I hope you do too today. I've had a wonderful life journey through the world of business. You know, I noticed out front, Mr. Seidman, there's a quote there, "I've had a great life." And I've had a great life too. It's been a real blessing. I've had lots of opportunities to contribute, and on a good day, I'm helpful. But, and I work hard to make every day a good day. You know, what I'm going to talk about today is started out at 30 years in the rearview mirror, and then I got older. So now we're just over 30 years in the rearview mirror. But the reality is, starting next year, it'll be 40 years in the rearview mirror. 40 years of life experiences that are all packaged up neatly for you. And I'll cover all that territory in 12 lessons over 50 minutes. So you're getting quite a bargain today. You're getting I have about a lesson every 3 or 4 years, and you're getting them every 3 or 4 minutes. So enjoy it while you can. All these lessons, as I was reflecting on it in the hotel this morning when I woke up very early because I couldn't wait to get started, you know, I've always been fascinated by American presidents. I started out as a political science major at Northwestern, and one of my favorite American presidents was Gerald Ford. What I will talk about today, I want you to think about Gerald Ford when I go down this list. He would check every box. High character, high competence, great work ethic, not trying to take shortcuts, always trying to do the right thing, honoring people. He would check every box. So it's sort of a blessing to have an opportunity to talk with a group of people who come from his hood. So what I'll do now is I'll take you through a little of my background. I'm going to fly through it because you have it on your tables. But we have created this organization called Conant Leadership that's dedicated to helping improve the quality of leadership in the 21st century. We make no money. Hopefully we don't lose too much. And we believe that my generation has an opportunity to really contribute to the dialogue about what's happening as we go forward. I told the students last night that in 10 years, 70% of the workforce will be made up of millennials and Gen Xers. And our job now is to share with them the lessons we've learned and to help them find a way to incorporate what works for them in their lives as they go forward. So this is very much a pay-it-forward time. I've had a series of corporate experiences, very challenging. I'll talk about some of them in a few minutes. I started my career with General Mills, went on to Kraft Foods after being fired at General Mills. Was recruited into Nabisco right after Barbarians at the Gate and had to help rebuild that company. And then was recruited to Campbell's as CEO and had that job for 11 years. I was also on the board of directors of Applebee's. We took it from a small, tiny casual dining chain in the Southwest to the largest casual dining chain in the world. And then I'm chairman of the Avon Products Board, and I'm also on the Amerisource Bergen Board in Philadelphia. I think it says we're the 29th largest company in the Fortune 500. We're now the 12th largest company in the Fortune 500 and growing fast. Deep engagement in not-for-profit world. One of those highlighted on your sheet is the Committee Encouraging Corporate Philanthropy. What we're seeing is this major trend of major corporations finding ways to give back, leveraging their skills, assets, and capabilities to help build a better world while they try and build a better company. It's clear to executives across the landscape that they have to move their corporate agenda to be better aligned with the societal agenda. And they're doing it. They're doing it in ways that can work while they continue to meet the needs of their shareholders. But they're finding they can do both. And it's just the tip of the iceberg there. One of the fun things I have an opportunity to do is go out and speak. I've covered maybe 50 campuses in the last year, and Grand Valley State is number one in terms of tweets per student. So you Grand Valley folks, come on, don't let me down. Keep it going now. All right? And it gives me an opportunity to have my finger on the pulse of what's going on today in a variety of corporate settings and academic settings. And we're all in this together, and I see people starting to work shoulder to shoulder in enlightened ways to build a better world, while we also try and build a prosperous world. Involved at Kellogg, at my alma mater, Kellogg, and I love my work there. My writing partner and I wrote the book Touch Points. I encourage you to read it. I will touch on it in a few spaces, but it has really helped crystallize my thinking about what is required of leaders today to lead in such a fragmented, chaotic world. And I encourage you to read that. This is where I'll start. This is my mother and father. I was born in 1951 in a small town north of Chicago. That's my father, Roger Porter Conant. His family was originally from New England. And my mother, Elsie Jean Russell. She's from rural Mississippi. Her parents came over from Ireland and after the Irish potato famine, and they were farmers in rural Mississippi. That's me. I was pretty cute. I think. I didn't stay that way. You'll see in the next picture. That's me now, and that's my terrified younger brother. I'm the oldest of 4 boys, so of course I am always right. You get that. If you're an oldest, you get it. If you're not an oldest, you get it. I went on to Northwestern. I got my undergraduate degree in political science, and then I stayed at Kellogg and got my graduate degree in marketing. I met my wife, Susan Lee Pearson, originally from Michigan, other half of the state, Birmingham, Michigan. We were married at Martha Mary Chapel at Greenfield Village. And love of my life and my best friend. We have 3 wonderful kids. Ben, who lives in Chicago, Sarah, who lives in Washington, D.C., and Tyler, who lives in New York City. So we spend a lot of time in Chicago, Washington, D.C., and New York City. Worst places to be. We also have actually a home here in Holland, Michigan, where we've had this home for 30 years. And so, as I was sharing with our table, I've been in the phone book in Holland, Michigan. Of course, one of the students said, "What's a phone book?" But I've been in the phone book for 30 years in Holland, Michigan. I'm going to share with you 12 lessons today, and this is going to be like a lightning round. So we're going to fly through it, but you will get the point. There are 4 guiding thoughts that I would share with you that kind of transcend the individual lessons I'll share with you. And the first one is, as I look back on my career, I see there has always been a need to be tough-minded on standards and tender-hearted with people. I started out in an either-or world in the corporate world. What do you want me to be, tough or nice? And I had a chance to visit with Robert Schuller, and he had written a book, Tough-Minded Faith for Tender-Hearted People. And he challenged all of us to embrace this abundance mentality and be both. Be tough-minded on standards and tender-hearted with people. I have carried that line with me, and it has served me well everywhere I've been. As a corporate executive, you have to be tough-minded on standards. You have no choice, or you're out of a job or out of business. At the same time, 999 of the decisions made in a day are made when you're not in the room. So the people working for you and with you need to be carrying the water, and they need to feel valued, and they need to feel cared for. So this notion of being tough-minded on standards and tender-hearted with people is essential. The second one is that you can do better. Sometimes we get to a place where we think, I've got this figured out. Forget about it. You can do better. And the thought I would share with you is that better is best. Building a continuous improvement mindset into all you do every day will serve you well. If you try and do a little better tomorrow than you did today, you will. And in the fullness of time, your ability to contribute will be elevated. The third thought, the soft stuff is the hard stuff. Every derailing study you will ever read will talk about the soft stuff. When people fail, it's not because they didn't do the return on investment analysis right. It's because they didn't communicate it clearly, they weren't trusted, their intentions were questioned. the nuances of communication get in the way, and as leaders and contributors, we have to pay attention to the nuances. And we have to recognize that the soft stuff is the hard stuff. And then I have this wonderful quote from Desjardins, which reminds me that this is a spiritual experience. It's not a physical experience. His quote is, "We're not human beings in search of a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings in search of a human experience." We have to manage the spirit of the people with whom we live and work. We have to encourage it to grow and prosper if we want to grow and prosper as contributors. Those are the 4 guiding thoughts. Now I've got 12 lessons, and you fasten your seatbelts here. I'll slow down on a few of them, but I'm going to go fairly quickly here. They're broken up into 4 chunks: starting the journey, preparing yourself, and then once you're prepared, stepping up to the challenge and activating things, and then ultimately prevailing in the face of adversity. And adversity will come. It comes to all of us. And it's how we respond to that adversity that defines our contribution profile and our ability to help build a better world. I'll take you through all 12 now, and here we go. Number 1, empower yourself. Stephen Covey had some great language he used. He became a close friend and mentor of mine. And he used to talk about, Doug, between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space is the power to choose your response. The single greatest power you have is the power to choose your response to any and to every situation. He said, you need to learn to activate that. You can't feel as if you're a victim. You are making choices. He talked about it between the stimulus and the response, ability to choose, and he helped me think about it, responsibility. I have the ability to choose my response to any and every situation. It's foundational to his habit 1 in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is be proactive. You need to own your response to every situation. I was fired from a job at General Mills and shared a little bit of that story with the group last night. I won't get into it in detail here, but I was summarily fired after 9 years and basically told one day, I came in, the manager couldn't look at me, said, your job's been eliminated, you need to pack your things and be out of here by noon. 9 years I'd been there. I was devastated and I was bitter. I went home to, as I said last night, my wife, my 2 small children, and my 1 very large mortgage, feeling every bit the victim. And ultimately, they put me in touch with an executive outplacement person by the name of Neil McKenna. He was a crusty New Englander who had survived life-threatening circumstances in World War I. And he was not going to hear any of this poor, pitiful Patty me saying how I was a victim of all this. He said, you've got to suck it up. You've got to turn the coin over here. You can't live in the past and what you've lost. Your job now is to create the world's best job search. And you need to be focused on moving forward and making choices about how you want to proceed. You need to take control of the situation. The language he used for me, which I still remember, is to turn the coin over. And to this day, I'm glad he did, because it helped set me straight for the rest of my career. And that was, 30 years ago now. So, lesson 1, empower yourself. Recognize you have the power to choose your response to any and to every situation. Exercise that power with all you have every day. You have the power to say yes, no, or maybe I can't make up my mind today and I'll deal with it later, but you have the power of choice. Lesson 2, recognize that embedded within this power of choice is the opportunity to choose to influence those around you with honor. Last night we did a quick exercise and I talked about the power principle, which is a book written by Blaine Lee. And in there, Blaine has an elegantly simple model. It's overly simple, but you'll get the point. He said, look, you have the power to choose your situation, choose how you respond to any and every situation. That makes you powerful. You have power. And when you're working with others, you have 3 ways to exercise that power, oversimplifying. You can be coercive. You can use fear and intimidation to get what you want. You can say, if you don't do this, you're fired. Okay, you can do that and people will do it. When you leave the room, there's a reservoir of ill will there that is unmistakable, and it will ultimately be your undoing. But at times, we got to just get it done. And we've all done it. With our children, or with peers or contemporaries, we've just said, we got to get it done. He said, but there's a better way. And then he went to the second one, which is, he calls it utility power. It's a sort of a transactional notion. It's built on the concept of fairness. If you do this for me, I'll do that. It's one hand washes the other. It's pay for performance. If you do this, I'll give you a quarter. And that works. And that's largely what the corporate world is built on, is the concept of fairness and leveraging utility power in a transactional way. Now I'm going to ask you to think about someone who's had a profound influence on you in your life. Okay? Normally we'd talk about it. We don't have time today, so just imagine this person. It's a teacher, a boss, probably not a boss. I've had 28 bosses, 3 were good. The older people in this room know exactly what I'm talking about. The younger ones, fasten your seatbelts. You need to be your own boss as you go through this. But think about someone who's had a profound influence on you in your life. It could be a grandfather, an aunt, an uncle, a coach. If you think about that person, you think about, well, how often did they use coercion to motivate me to do something? Well, not really, not a lot, occasionally, especially if it was a coach and it was a football team. You probably saw some of that. How often were they transactional with you? And were their motives based on the concept of fairness? Yeah, some. But to a person, I guarantee all of you would say, well, but there was more to it than that. And Blaine would say there was, and he would say these people unconditionally honored you. And in honoring you, they were tough-minded on standards. They all had high standards. And they also cared about you. And they honored you. The more they honored you, the more you honored them and the agenda that was being set. So the second observation here is choose to influence with honor. Realize you have the power of choice, and then choose to influence those around you with honor. Third, begin with the end in mind. How many of you, well, we got a lot of business people here. All of us have had business projects. We do a situation analysis. We draw conclusions. We have planning implications. We build a plan. We decide we're going to buy 250 iPhones, Bill, or whatever it is, or iPods. And we have a plan and we go execute it. Well, I would argue that we all need to do that with our careers too. We need to begin this career with the end in mind. Now, the one thing you know is whatever you start with will be wrong. It will. But you'll learn and you'll course correct as you go. But you need a launching pad. You need a foundation to build on. So we encourage people to say, to begin with the end in mind when they start their career journey. And when they're course correcting their career journey. Where do I want to go? Have a map, have a plan, then course correct as you go. In my life, I focused on what matters most to me. Another Stephen Covey line, you don't want to forget this one. What matters most must never be at the mercy of what matters least. We all tend to get sucked into the to-do list and the things I can check off on my to-do list, the easy things. But we give short shrift to the things that matter most. In my planning, my career planning, I identified 5 things that I had to be hitting on 5 cylinders with a reasonable rhythm in order to have an enduring impact in my work. If I was missing on 1 or 2 of these over an extended period of time, I knew I was headed for a fall. To operate at peak performance in an enduring way, life taught me that these 5 things had to somewhat be in sync. I'm not maniacal over this. I look about every quarter, I say, how am I doing on these 5? And if I'm not doing well, I try and strengthen my resolve in one area or the other. My family, my work, my faith, my community, and my own personal well-being. I've got to take care of myself so I can do the other 4 well. And I can't neglect one of these for any length of time. So I'm focused on what matters most, and it shapes how I follow my journey. I'm going to move on to 4. As you shape your journey, retry. Pamela Vol Starr has a great sonnet. reach high, for stars lie hidden in your soul. Dream deep, for a dream precedes every goal. Of all the people I've worked with, all of them, they all have had more capacity than they realized. They all had more capacity than they realized. They sold themselves short. You don't have to do that. You have the opportunity to reach high. Now, you may not make it. You course correct and you move on. But the challenge I would bring, would suggest, is bring an abundance mentality to your thinking. Thinking about how can I be tough-minded on standards and tender-hearted with people? How can I advance my student aspirations and my work aspirations and my family aspirations? You will come short, but don't sell yourself short. You can do better. Jim Collins has some great language in Good to Great, and he's a good friend. Best-selling business book in history, and he's right. This notion of the best companies and the best leaders reject the tyranny of the or. What do you want to grow, sales or earnings? What do you want me to do well in school or at work? No, the best people are embracing the genius of the end and saying, I'm going to try and find a way to thread the needle and be brilliant at both. Go for it. Go for it. You can do this. You'll come up short. You'll course correct. And you'll be better for it. Moving on. Lightning round, I told you. Oh, by the way, I meant to start with this. If you go to the Conant Leadership website and you click on the About Conant Leadership tab, embedded in there are all 12 of these lessons in neatly packaged little 3 to 4 minute videos. So you can get all 12 of these in a much more complete way than you're going to get today. So you don't have to, this is not your only opportunity to hear this. Number 5, once you've determined your direction, do your homework, work at it. Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers talks about Anders Ericsson's work, about 10,000 hours. And people have tried to debunk that from Princeton, but I subscribe to it. And basically the notion is if you want to be really good at something, you need to spend 10,000 hours working at it. If you want to be good, if you want to get your law degree, you've got to spend 10,000 hours working if you want to be a lawyer. If you want to be a doctor or a surgeon, you've got to spend 10,000 hours working at it. There's no substitute for experience in the arena for shaping your ability to contribute. So once you identify a direction, work hard at uncovering ways to learn and grow in that direction. What I would tell you is there's no new challenge that you're facing. All these challenges have been faced somewhere by somebody. And through the magic of the internet and Google, there is wisdom literature available on any of these issues at your fingertips. Avail yourself of it. Become a student of your journey. Learn and grow. I don't think I'll get into this later, but this life is very Darwinian. You either grow or die. There is no in between here. We suggest you choose growth. It beats the alternative. Okay? I have one book for you here. It's by my friend Jeffrey Colvin. He writes for Fortune magazine. And it's about talent is overrated and what really separates world-class performers from everybody else. And he wrote this before Malcolm Gladwell wrote Outliers, and it was about the power of deliberate practice, all based on the Ericsson research that suggested 10,000 hours was relevant. There is a Princeton study where they did some analysis of big data, and identified that maybe this is an overrated idea, but there's no substitute for experience. I guarantee it. Number 6, and Bill shared this, the importance of building a network. This is an arduous journey we're on, right? We don't have to do it alone. Frank and I were talking after this morning, and we had a lovely dinner with Vonnie and Bill and Frank last night, and I said, it must be reassuring to be on this journey with some like-minded people, You don't want to feel like Don Quixote here. You don't need to. There are like-minded people who want to be part of the journey with you. When I was fired from General Mills and trying to create the world's best job search, one of the things he said, Doug, you got to create a network. You got to get outside of this little work experience you have. And he had me starting to build this network of people who would give me ideas and advice for my job search. I tried very carefully not to infringe on their time and to honor them, and I found they were willing to be helpful. And then over time, I had opportunities to help them as well. I conducted, and that's Neil McKenna, by the way, and after I was fired at Parker Brothers and I started to build this network, I found it to be an incredibly valuable tool. And in fact, when I interviewed for the Campbell Soup job in 2000, this was, almost 20 years after I was fired from General Mills when I first started to build this network. I actually called a few of them and actually had them help me think through how I would run Campbell's. As I shared with our table here, my first interview with Campbell's, I was sitting at a table in a restaurant. They had bought out the restaurant in New York, and we had this large round table with 8 directors talking to me, asking me questions. It was like I was in front of a firing squad here. And I thought after the first one, I thought, gosh, that was a disaster. And surprisingly, 2 days later, I had a call, and they said, well, that went really well. We'd like to do it again. How about Monday? And this was on Thursday. And so I called some friends in New York. I was living outside of New York at the time, and we met at a friend's office, and we worked the weekend, and we developed what we called the revitalization framework for Campbell Soup Company. We put it in a PowerPoint presentation, and when I went for the interview, I carried all these books with these bound presentations with me to the next to the next interview. The same 8 guys sitting in the same places, ready to do battle again, and I just wasn't going to go through it. They started asking a question, and I said, you know, I've been thinking about the 100 questions you asked me last time, and I actually have a perspective on what I think we need to do at Campbell. I'd like to share it with you. And they said, well, good. So then I pulled out of my bag, I pulled out this PowerPoint presentation, I handed it out, and I ran that meeting, and then I ran the company for the next 12 years. And I couldn't have done it without my network helping me. Couldn't have done it. And I've been there for them, too, at the drop of a hat. So build a network. It can make this journey so much more fulfilling. Number 7, okay, you have a plan. What's the next challenge? Declare yourself. The people with whom you live and work are not mind readers. They're as busy as you are. Every day they feel as if they're trying to get a sip of water from the fire hydrant of life. Between emails, text messages, phone calls, family, work, they're all busy. If you want them to know something about you, you have to tell them. So I've developed a practice that I started when I was interviewing for a job, which is another story I don't have time for now. I was the world's worst interview in the early days. I learned to get pretty good at it. But my outplacement counselor, Neil McKenna, said, you're going to be the world's worst interview. This is my coach. And he said, you've got to tell people they're not mind readers. I'm an INTJ, Myers-Briggs. You're an introvert, and you don't speak unless they speak to you. I knew Frank for probably 10 years and never said anything to him. I was introverted. And he said, you don't have that much time with these people with whom you live and work. You need to tell them. So I developed a practice called the DRC orientation. It's become a rather large thing. The first hour of the first day I work with someone, first hour, first day, I take them through this DRC orientation. I tell them more than they ever want to know about me. And I cover everything from what's important to me to what kind of leader I'm trying to be, what I value in an organization, what I'm looking for with the people that work for me, how I believe my sector operates, how I plan, how I operate, my background, and then in the end I share with them my favorite quotes, which probably tells them more about me than anything else. Stories again, Frank. And at the end of it I say, there, I've told you what you can expect from me. If I do what I say you can trust me. If I don't, you can't, but you'll know that too, and we can just focus on doing the work. Most of us have started a new job, and we do this little tap dance with the people with whom we work for about 3 months, trying to figure out, well, what does she really want from me? Or what is the boss really after here? I get that all out of the way. I just tell you. And it's incredibly liberating. I don't know if any of you know Susan Cain's work. She wrote a book called Quiet Revolution. She's got quite a program going now, unlocking the power of introverts in the workplace. And I'm actually working with her to do a Declare Yourself document that helps introverts declare themselves in the workplace in a safe and comfortable way. This is a big idea. You need to tell people what you want them to know about you in a way that's true and authentic, and it can't be contrived. It has to be real. I end on my favorite quote, which is Teddy Roosevelt, another American president, and it's all about, it's not the critic who counts or the man who points out how the poor man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. And if they fail, at least fail while daring greatly, so that their timid souls will not lie with, there I go. At worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those timid souls who know neither victory or defeat. I love being in the arena. And I love learning from being in the arena. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do as well. Moving on, number 8, act and deliver. So far, this is all words and thoughts. Life is about performance. You actually have to do what you say you're going to do, and you have to do it with distinction. So declaring yourself is all fine and dandy, but ultimately you have to perform. You have to perform with competence, with character. You have to do it well with others, but you have to perform. I love this, another Stephen Covey quote. Obviously, I'm a disciple. You can't talk your way out of something you behaved your way into. You have to behave your way out of it. This is not about talk. This is about behavior. And you have to do what you say you're going to do, and you have to do it with distinction. So all this positioning stuff that Frank and I were talking about last night in marketing and advertising, that's wonderful. But ultimately, the product has to deliver. And you have to deliver. So don't begin to think, I'm not performance-oriented here. We have to perform. You have to perform. There has to be quality alignment between your words and your deeds. If there is, people will trust you. If there's not, they won't, and you won't advance. So you have to declare yourself, and then you have to do what you say you're going to do. I encourage you to think about declaring yourself thoughtfully, but as you reflect on it, the more I declare myself, the more I felt compelled to hold myself to those standards, right? Once I've told people that I'm going to behave this way, I actually had to do it. If I kept it as my little secret, it was easy for me to quietly slip away from some of my beliefs. But once you're out there, you own it. So you need to be thoughtful about this, but there does need to be quality alignment between your words and your deeds. Number 9, be humble. At this point, you should think, well, he thinks he knows everything. Well, and I do. But what I do know, and I love dealing with the students, whatever paradigm I'm operating in today, I know somehow it's incomplete in terms of looking at the world tomorrow. I was talking to the students last night, and in the corporate world, email is the dominant device. And knowledge workers get between 100 and 200 emails a day in the corporate world. Or it could be north of there. If you're at Wells Fargo Consumer Lending Group, they get north of 200, and then they have their own special high-priority email system, which adds on another 50. But with the students, it's all about Twitter. It's all about tweeting. And so I've got to constantly be thinking about what paradigm am I really operating in. And as do we all, because this world is filled with disequilibrium now, and we need to be alert to that and learning and growing. Jim Collins, again, has some great advice for all of us. In Good to Great, he talked about the leaders who really were making a difference in creating great companies that could endure performance over a long stretch of time. He used 20 years. And the two distinguishing characteristics about these leaders was not their presence or any of this stuff. It was humility and fierce resolve. Humility in the sense that they always knew they needed to learn and grow if they wanted to lead their enterprise in an enlightened way. And also, the other one was this notion of fierce resolve in that they were determined to see this through because they were going to encounter adversity. But they were going to continue to learn, and they were going to continue to lead in the face of some challenging situations. I think that's true, that's instructive for all of us with our own careers too. We need to bring humility and fierce resolve to the work. Stephen Covey also talks about this same notion in his 7 Habits work. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then be understood. And we also capture it in our Touch Points book. We talk about leading through listening. Learn about the environment you're operating in before you jump in and try and solve a problem. So be humble. Number 10, make it personal. As I said last night to the students, anybody who says it's not personal, it's just business, has never been successful in business. It is personal. Anything that's worthy of great, that has enabled one to deliver great contribution has been done because people were personally committed to it. From the Kansas City Royals to the folks at Amway. They were personally invested in getting this journey right. They were all in. And we need to be all in too. And we need to be all in tangible ways. I have an example here of a note I wrote to somebody. The note is irrelevant. But I had a practice of writing 10 to 20 notes to people every day, 6 days a week for the 10 years I was at Campbell. I also did it at Nabisco. I did it when I lost my job, actually. That was part of my world's greatest job search process. I wrote notes to everybody within 24 hours of meeting them, handwritten notes, thanking them for their contribution, their help. And at Campbell, this woman here ran a program sort of like this, and the program has to run right in order for it to work for the audience. And she was always behind the scenes, and nobody really appreciated her. I handwrote her this note, thanking her for helping us run yet another highly productive CEO Institute session. And I sent it to her the same day we completed the program. I walked by her desk the next day, and it was framed in a plexiglass frame on her desk. Feedback means a lot. People appreciate it. Over the course of and I've made sure that these notes were celebrating contributions of significance. It wasn't just have a nice day, although that would have been okay. But it was celebrating performance that was differentiating. Okay? Always celebrating performance. Over my 10 years there, I wrote over 30,000 notes, and we only had 20,000 employees. Wherever you went, you saw these notes posted in cubicles or on desks. Do you think anybody in the company noticed that the CEO was paying attention to the performance of these people? You bet. Do you think some of the people that work for me started to celebrate strong performance? You bet. Most of our organizations are built to be great critical thinking organizations. We solve problems. We look for the busted number in the spreadsheet. What's not working? I have found in the fullness of my life experience that we need to celebrate what's working as well as what's not working. I have tried to do that. I also did it by wandering around our facility. I would carve an hour, a half hour to an hour out of virtually every day and try and walk the facility and connect with people in a meaningful way. That was popularized by In Search of Excellence by Peters and Waterman. And I love this Maya Angelou quote about people will not remember what you said, they won't remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. And when I retired from Campbell, the employees made me a video thanking me for my thank you notes and thanking me for making it personal. And I'm going to run a piece of that video right now, just so you don't have to listen to me and so I can drink my water. Okay, Jonas, bring it home, wherever you are.
Maria, thanks for all your help. You are making a big difference.
Eric, thank you for helping out. I think of you at every Extraordinary Performance Award ceremony.
Thanks for modeling this nourishing people's lives behavior. It is one of the many things that makes our company so special.
Thank you for joining us for lunch today on short notice. I hope you found the discussion helpful. Have a great year, Doug.
Thank you for helping out, and thank you for the holiday card. Cheers.
Lorraine, sounds like a great meeting. When you have a chance, please get 15 minutes on my schedule and take me through your Women of Campbell Global Plan. Thanks, Doug.
I started at Campbell Soup back in 2004, and over the years I've received several personal notes from Doug for the work that either I've done or our group has done, and it always has a great impact.
After my first interview with Campbell's, there was a book that Doug shared
One of my best hires.
with me about Campbell's and the history of Campbell's. And in it was a very, very personal note that I read to my family, and the following Monday I accepted the offer with Campbell's. And
Whoops. I'm not in that big a hurry. Will you save me from myself? Can you go back to the video? That's why I have my friend Jonas here. It's a really good video.
Miss Doug and seeing him
Good.
walk through our office.
A group of us had this idea about a mural painted by employees, but we couldn't get any traction on the idea until one day, as I was walking down the hallway, I ran into Doug. He liked the idea and he supported it and he helped bring it to life.
One of my favorite memories of Doug was the time when I was reading to a group of students, and it was a program called Read and Believe. And we had read to the children, and we had walked outside to wait for their bus to come. Their bus never came, and they were outside for like 15 minutes, rowdy, running around, screaming, and I was trying to calm them all down. Doug had walked up and saw the kids, and he sat down on the bench, and he took the book and just started reading to these kids, and they started climbing all over him and really seriously listening to him, and he was really enjoying it, and so were they. It was just a really sweet moment.
My dad works at the Campbell's Napoleon plant, and when I was 10 years old, I won the Napoleon Campbell Soup 50th Anniversary Essay Contest. It was just a really great experience, and I sat next to Doug Conant at the lunch. Well, when we were eating, I needed help cutting my chicken, so he helped me. And it was just really great. He was a really kind person, and I didn't know he had such an important position in Campbell's Soup. He was just so kind. It was an amazing experience.
Another story.
I was based at Players Miranda, and I received an envelope in the internal mail with Douglas R. Conant on the front of it. When we opened it, was a response from Doug around one of the activities I was involved with. Once the letter had been shared with my team, one of the members took it and got it laminated. For them, they were amazed that the boss of our organisation would take the time out to recognise an individual.
He has seen me through good times, bad times, helped me with my objectives, given me some good advice on those, has also been a warm, caring person to me and my family through good and through bad times. Mr. Doug is my BFF at work. Everybody already knows that.
That is what is key for me, and key about Doug is that.
We're going to move on. You get the point. We had a personal connection at work. I took it very personally. Our employees took it personally. And we lifted ourselves up in ways that I can't imagine happening if we hadn't been personally invested in the work. So I encourage you on your journey, make it personal. Our next lesson, we're in the home stretch. You're in the home stretch. Number 11, be intrepid. This journey is not for the faint of heart. You will encounter adversity. And the language I use here is courageously engage the adventures of your life. Never stop learning, never stop growing, never stop contributing. As I said, the corporate life is very Darwinian. You either grow or die, and there is no in between. It can be a great adventure if you choose to approach it that way and look at the opportunities in front of you. It can be incredibly daunting if you don't bring this intrepid mindset to the journey. And in my new journey, believe me, I am a novice in this social media world, but I actually recently was named one of the 3 CEOs killing it on social media. Who would have thought? My kids can't believe it. But, and believe me, if I can do that, all of you can do anything. So never stop learning, never stop growing. Try and find new ways to connect and contribute. And number 12, have fun. You know, This journey can be incredibly daunting, but it can also be filled with moments of real joy, where you help those around you do something special, where you can celebrate those positive experiences, and I encourage you to look for them. I also encourage you to plant yourself where you can bloom, or bloom where you are planted. Some of our young friends, as you move into the workplace, really work hard. Think in terms of the Venn diagrams we all did in school. Well, at least I did. I don't know if you still do Venn diagrams in school. I'm looking at you. Do you still do? You? Okay. Okay. You have this circle called your value system, and you have this circle called the corporate culture, the culture you're going into, their value system. Those value systems are never perfect, so let go of that notion. But they do need to overlap in a meaningful way so that the organization, the entity you're choosing to be a part of, is largely in harmony with your values. If it is, you can flourish, grow, and have fun. If it's not, you won't. It's about that simple. Another friend has done some work, and they've broken it into 4 circles just to make it more complicated. And they talk about the notion of having only thinking in terms of what your passion, your purpose, how can you help build a better world, your competence, what are your skills, assets, and capabilities to doing that, and then how can you monetize that, how can you make a living doing it. So if you marry your passion, your purpose with the other 2, you're in business. But it's important to sort this through as you build your career journey. Bloom where you're planted, but also be very careful to plant yourself where you think you can bloom. Again, you will be wrong. We all are. But it's part of the journey. Just learn from it and move on. Well, those are the 12 lessons in our lightning round. Empower yourself. Choose to influence with honor. As you start the journey, begin with the end in mind. Don't hold yourself back. Reach high. Dream deep. Do your homework. Work at it. Build a network to go on the journey with you. Declare yourself. What do I stand for? What's my brand, Frank, right? Then deliver. You got to deliver against the promise. Always recognize that you need to learn and grow and be humble. Make it personal. Be intrepid. And have fun. That's all you have to do. Piece of cake. You got it? You got it? He's got it. All right. Good. Well, if you're like most audiences, when I get into this, they say, well, that's all fine and good, but where do I start, And I would say it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. If I was doing this all over again, and in fact I am with every chapter, I would go back to the first 3. I would say, recognize that you have the power of choice. Empower yourself to choose a path. Then work with the people around you. Influence them with honor. Just like those people we were challenging you to think about influenced you with honor. Be tough-minded on standards, tender-hearted with people. And then build a plan. And then start to work it and make it better over time. That's it. Thank you very much. If I timed that right, there's very limited time for questions. But I think we have, would you say 5 to 9? It's 8:55. So I tried to end with 5 minutes. Can we do that? And if there are no questions, that's just fine. But, or comments, and I'll be around for a few minutes afterwards too. But yes, sir. Absolutely. I won't get into it here, but you see these braces I wear, these suspenders? I was involved in a near-fatal car crash 6 years ago, July 2nd, 2009. I'm lucky to be alive. And I went through a lot of reconstructive surgery. I am living proof that you can put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And as long as I keep my shirt on with my suspenders, you really wouldn't know. But to get through that experience and all the rebuilding I was still a CEO. I went through 6 major operations rebuilding my body, running a Fortune 300 company. I'm telling you, if I hadn't had a positive attitude, I wouldn't have made it through day one. I think it's part of having a choice. You know, you have the power to choose how you're going to attack things. I have always chosen to view them as opportunities to do better. I don't know of many successful leaders who have been able to lead and mobilize people without bringing a positive attitude to the work. I'm a big fan of Herman Miller, and you know, that's one of the hallmarks of that company. It's kind of can-do, and we're going to take care of our people come hell or high water, and they'll take care of us. And they've had to do some difficult things along the way. But for the most part, I think most of the companies that I hold up as companies of great value are companies that think they can do it, and more often than not they do. So it is part of my DNA, and the importance of positive attitude is a big part of it. And I think it starts with that first one: empower yourself, recognize you have the power to choose the response. When I was fired from my job, I could have crawled in a hole. My middle son is doing that right now as he's been laid off. So you've got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get back in the game. Not easy. Yes, sir.
I'm reading O'Reilly's Killing Reagan book right now, and in that book, Reagan did a lot of notes, a lot of thank you notes.
Have you read his book on notes? It's unbelievable.
Well, and I draw some similar avenues to it for what you're doing with and have done, writing thank you notes. Is Twitter replacing that, or is writing the letter note a lost art right now?
Well, I'm a big advocate of the concept is make it personal. It's not writing the note. Now, with my travel and the fact that I don't have 20,000 people working for me, I'm doing it electronically. But the notes I send to people are personal. I'm always making sure I'm connecting with them in a personal way around an experience. The concept is make it personal. And I do it more through email because I find Twitter holds me back, but you can do it electronically. And when the technology gets a little better, I'm going to be sending handwritten notes from my iPad. I don't really have a good application for that yet. But the concept is make it personal. And do it in a timely way when it happens, not 2 weeks later. Okay, I think the party's over. You have work to do, don't you? Students have classes to go to. All right, well, thank you very much. Oh, wow, I didn't realize.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I thank Mr. Doug Conant here, I want to first say this is a great partnership, result of a great partnership. First, Ambassador Secchia for supporting the breakfast series. Frank, my colleague and friend from here in the college, university, appreciate the partnership among the schools so all of us can benefit from this, and to all of you for being here. So thank you very much for this great partnership. Now, when I look over here, Doug, I see leaders who are already here, emerging leaders and future leaders in our students, and you had a lesson for all of us. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. That was a wonderful opportunity.
Well, we covered the waterfront, so there was something there for everybody. Well, thank you.
And this is a small token of our appreciation from the Seidman College of Business.
Thank you.
And we want to appreciate, ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand up and allow me to thank Mr. Doug Conant for a wonderful presentation.